Hello, dear friends. I hope you are all well. I want you to be ready with me for the final episode of Hobin's story. Throughout the past episodes, we have been with Hobin in his intense fights, and we saw how he defeated the bullies he encountered. Let's continue and see what he will do with the last bully. We return once again to continue our events with Snapper, who is recording everything and saying, Hobin is being reckless, and it looks like he's going to get hurt. We see Hobin holding Huang and saying to him, "What should I do with you? How do I bring you down? What is this creature?" Snapper, behind him, was about to break down from his words and said, "Is there a sane person who fights someone like this?" But then he thinks a little about Hobin, the master of surprises, and says, could it be that he has discovered a new technique to win against this elephant? In fact, it's not far from him, as he is the one who defeated Paco, the 3 bullies, and Tai Han as well. Maybe he will defeat this huge guy. But what you don't know, Snapper, is that Hobin stayed up late last night watching Sam's videos where Sam was saying, "Today I will teach you how to fight and win against a strong wrestler." Sam, I want to tell you, dear, that there is no way to win a fierce fight with a wrestler. Of course, Hobin was shocked by his words and didn't know what to do until Sam, the master of tricks and moves, said to him, "But of course, dear, we make the impossible happen here." We return to the fight with Hobin, who was like an ant in front of Huang, trying to use the clave kick. At that time, people in the comments started encouraging him, saying, "Hobin, you're awesome. Give him the deadly clave kick." But in truth, Hobin was trying to catch his breath, and every time he fought, he felt strange emotions called adrenaline. Snapper was behind him, encouraging him, saying, "The clave kick seems like it will work." But after all the comments and encouragement, Hobin was not able to move his leg from the pain after kicking this elephant's leg. Contrary to expectations, the only feeling he had was regret. He tried to repeat the clave move, hoping to move him from his place. But Huang stood like a lion, unshaken and unmoving. Then Huang decided to provoke him, so he took off his work clothes in preparation for the fight. Hobin held his leg in pain, sweat pouring from him, on the verge of collapse. He said, "This guy doesn't move at all. I made a mistake deciding to face someone like this. How will my small foot bring down an elephant like this?" At that moment, Huang looked at Hobin with disdain and said, "Have you finished your tricks? I let you play a lot, but now it's my turn." Hobin said, "This is a truck. It doesn't move. Where's the adrenaline, the growth hormone, anything to help me?" At that moment, Huang started clapping mockingly and said to him, "This is the first time I see someone running backward. Now you look very bad in front of your followers." But Snapper was still filming and broadcasting live, looking at his friend with joy and saying, "This must be a new plan." Then Snapper smiled wickedly, showing his broken teeth, and said to them, "Calm down, folks. The game hasn't started yet. Shame on you, this is Hobin. Remember the trio in the previous video and how he managed to defeat them when he ran away? He is probably repeating the same move with him. Yes, it's true that Huang is not like ordinary humans, but maybe this move will work on him, and he will fall on his face, unable to run after Hobin." But one of the comments shattered all his hopes when he said, "Do you think wrestlers don't know how to run? It seems that you don't know anything about wrestling or its techniques." The shock came when Huang actually started running after Hobin, saying, "I forgot to tell you that I run 30 meters in 1 hour, besides the fact that wrestlers train by running for very long periods on sand." But what do we see? Hobin returned and punched him in the face. He knew all these things, and remembered Sam's words when he said, "No matter how much you run, he will catch you. Surprise him, especially if your opponent is big, because he will drop his body while running. The important thing is to take advantage of that and hit him violently." And indeed, when Hobin stood up, he grabbed Huang's hands with both of his own and hit him in the face. But suddenly, Huang with one hand grabbed Hobin's hands and lifted them easily, as if he were a piece of meat. Hobin was about to be paralyzed and said, "Oh my God, the hit did not affect him at all. No pain, no ache, nothing." But Hobin, the master of surprises, with a sneaky move, managed to free his hands and grabbed Huang by the head, starting to choke him. He wasn't choking him hard, but it was enough. At that moment, Huang got angry and said, "Let me go, you, or let go of your hand." But Hobin said to him, "I swear I will never let you go. If I let you go, you'll turn me into shawarma." He remembered Sam's words when he said, "One of the techniques of choking is to press on the carotid artery as soon as you grab his neck and try to find this artery quickly and press on it." But in truth, Hobin was hesitant and tried to reach anything in his short, thick neck, but even choking did not work with him. At that moment, he looked at him with terror and said, "What should I do with this guy? Didn't they invent kicks for bulls like this so they could die?" But Huang said to him, "If you touch my head again, I will blow you up." At that moment, Hobin looked at him with great fear and thought, "I wonder what's up with his head. Could this be his weak point? Is this a new move that no one else will discover except me?" He started trying to touch his head again with great fear, fearing that Huang might turn into a winged dragon or something. But what you don't know, Hobin, my brother, is that wrestlers don't show mercy to each other at all and hit each other very violently. And indeed, we see Huang using the famous wrestling moves and throwing him to the ground with great violence to the extent that the followers heard the sound of Hobin's back breaking. Our hero was lying on the ground, breathing his last. Honestly, Hobin, you should have realized that there are opponents you cannot overcome, especially since luck was on your side in the past period, which is why you were able to defeat everyone. Snapper was standing on the side, crying over Hobin and saying, "I told you from the beginning not to fight him. You made me look like an unmatched hero, and now he has completely crushed you. The spine looks like it's completely shattered." But suddenly, everyone looked in shock, and we saw Hobin standing up again, despite his shattered body looking like a zombie. People in the comments were going crazy over this boy who never gives up and was determined to fight to the death. However, Huang runs at him at full speed to kill him this time. But Hobin regains consciousness and gets ready after experiencing a muscle cramp from the movement, deciding to fight until his last breath. Meanwhile, we see Tai Han sitting at home watching the live stream and saying, "This boy is always stubborn, and I'm sure he'll win this time, especially when I saw the look in his eyes that reminded me of our fight." But we return to Hobin, who is screaming with enthusiasm despite all the pain he's in, determined to win and fight until the last moment, even if it means dying. He starts moving in a strange way until he suddenly kicks Huang with a smooth backward kick, finally managing to hit Huang in the stomach. Hobin the Brave did it. We then see him talking to the doctor about his mother's surgery, which has finally been scheduled, and he needed to find a donor for her. At that moment, Hobin couldn't believe it and started crying with joy because his mother would finally be able to return home after a long stay in the hospital. But the doctor told him, "There's a problem, Hobin. The operation will cost 20 million. We see Hobin unconcerned telling her, "Don't worry, I'm a famous YouTuber, and I'll be able to cover the entire cost." After that, Hobin rushes to Snapper and Gale, who don't look too optimistic. But Hobin hugs Snapper, saying, "The surgery date is set. When will we receive the profits? The last video went viral, and its earnings are huge. I'm also planning to increase your salaries." However, he was surprised by their faces, which suggested a new disaster. We see Snapper saying, "Unfortunately, buddy, the channel is down, and all the videos we've made have been banned, meaning no earnings. Clearly, we won't be able to make any profits for a long time." After a while, we find Hobin standing with Tai Han to learn the spinning back kick from him. But Tai Han says, "You're dumb. Didn't I explain this move to you before?" He then demonstrates it and kicks the poor boy who put the bag in front of his stomach to soften Shingo's deadly blows. Tai Han calmly says, Why don't you call your friend to watch this miserable failure of yours? But Hobin says, Snapper knows nothing about what's between us, especially since this isn't a real fight or even a match. Then we move to a new character appearing for the first time, angrily shouting, What are you doing? This is a place to learn Taekwondo, not to play around. He then talks to the teacher and the kids in the fighting hall. At that moment, the old teacher says, Mr. Tay, the kids are tired of fighting, so I decided to do something beneficial for them, especially since this job doesn't earn a living anymore. But Tay gets angry and says, Are you crazy? You mean Taekwondo has no future? I'll show you how to defeat UFC with just Taekwondo. Then we return to Hobin, who is wearing Taekwondo clothes that are too big for him, making him look quite funny. The problem is that Taihan didn't know what to do with him, especially since the clothes Hobin is wearing now were from his elementary school days, making him look even smaller. But clearly Hobin is just shorter and skinnier than average. The segment of Hobin's favorite torture begins, where he runs around with great difficulty, not understanding the connection between running and what he wants to learn. But he is forced to follow instructions to the end. During this torture segment, he remembers what happened with Huang after delivering the accidental knockout blow, the spinning back kick. This kick affected Huang greatly and painfully, causing the destruction of his channel. Of course, the move worked by luck, to the extent that he learned its name from the comments when people told him it was Taihan's signature move. Views and comments increased, but suddenly, Huang flipped him again, leaving Hobin shocked, who thought he had won. The followers lost hope and left the live stream, but Huang grabbed him again to repeat his move. Hobin was terrified as he saw his death approaching, deciding to grab anything in front of him before falling on his back. The closest thing to him was Huang's hair. Unfortunately, due to the strong pull, the boy became completely bald, his hair ripped off. The shock was that for the first time on the fighting channel, comments stopped automatically. After a while, we see them sitting on the stairs with Hobin trying to improve the situation, saying, You look good bald, don't be upset, master. Your hair will grow back tomorrow. But Huang was very sad and said, This isn't my real hair. I've been growing it for 16 years and you ruined it forever. Then we returned to Snapper before discovering his big problem when he happily took his phone, thinking about the money they would make, especially since they reached 220,000 followers. But suddenly, he screamed in shock when he realized that their channel was down. And thus, we reached the end of the season with our hero, Hobin. Tell me, heroes, which of Hobin's fights was your favorite? Don't forget to wait for us in new stories. See you soon, heroes. Goodbye.